Bo Nix has had a really nice year. Jane Daniels is the Offensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL. Caleb Williams has done some decent things lately. I'd be surprised if he ever ends up being better than Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is fantastic.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday presented, of course, by DraftKings. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Most of you know that. More importantly now, 2 things. Number 1, I am a broadcaster. Another doubleheader weekend for me, by the way, coming up. I don't even know if it counts as the weekend, but I'll be in the radio booth, Chiefs Steelers, for Christmas on Wednesday, and then head up to Boston, Foxborough, home of the Pats. Chargers at the Patriots. NFL Network, Saturday, 1 o'clock, making my NFL Network debut. I don't know how many people have ever called a game on a Wednesday and a Saturday, NFL games in the same week before. Somebody look that up. Jack, that seems like a Jack stat. Maybe I'll be setting a record there. Oh, it's been the first time, Ross, since 1982 that someone's ever called a game on Wednesday and Saturday. Anyway, I also have a bunch of podcasts, right? Ross Tucker Football Podcast. That's this one. We're daily, Monday through Friday, about 26 minutes on average. The idea is that everything you need to know about the NFL, or everything that's going on in the NFL, I'll tell you on the regular every morning. And we post the show live as we're recording it. And then obviously it's available via podcast. Monday, we'll also do the college draft with Emery Hunt. So we got to talk about all the college football playoff games and then look ahead to the bowl games this week. Tuesday, Even Money Betting podcast. This week will be a little bit different. We're going to have, because of the holiday, might do a Picks Wednesday since there's 2 games on Wednesday, and then have a guest later on in the week. Probably going to record the Fantasy Feast early to make sure you guys are ready for your fantasy championships, which might include having guys on Wednesday. What a wacky, wacky week. Check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. Yes, I just realized right now while I'm talking, I forgot to pick winners. Hopefully I can do that at some point for those of you that spread the word via social media or take advantage of any of our sponsors or just make a comment. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Lot to get to. Let's start with the big show.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross, so what were your overall themes for Week 16 across the NFL so far?
Themes every Monday presented by my delicious, beloved Labatt Blue Light. Drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your friends and live life and live the holidays to the power of we. I saw a lot of people drinking Labatt Blue Light at that Bills-Patriots game yesterday. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. So here's some of the themes, all right? There's playoff implications everywhere, which is really cool, right? It started the game I did Thursday night with the Chargers and Broncos, all kinds of playoff implications in that one. Pittsburgh, Baltimore was gigantic. Houston, Kansas City, huge, right? Houston, Kansas City, that's, Kansas City pretty much cementing the number 1 seed, or at least close to it. The Ravens now are like in the driver's seat for the AFC North, which is incredible with that win. Then you've got the Falcons are now in first place. The Cardinals are out because they lost. The Lions are still trying to cement first place and home field advantage. The Colts, the game I did for CBS yesterday, they're staying alive, staying alive. Oh, staying alive. All right, the Rams, they got a great chance to clinch the NFC West. Eagles not able to clinch the NFC East. The Bengals staying alive. The Vikings staying alive for the number 1 seed. The Bills staying alive for the number 1 seed. Jags, Raiders, no implications whatsoever for the playoffs, but major implications for for the number 1 overall pick. Major. Raiders won, which affects that. The Dolphins staying alive. The Bucs now no longer control their own destiny as the Falcons are in the driver's seat in the NFC South. That's all the games. That's all the games. Now, I guess tonight there's some implications. I don't know. The Packers aren't catching both the Vikings and the Lions. So I don't even know what the implications are for the Packers. I guess seeding seems pretty sure they're going to. Oh, no, there is seeding. Whether they're going to be the 6th seed or the 7th seed. Man, they would be a tough 7 seed. Anyway, so that was one of the themes. Playoff implications. Then running backs, man. Running backs. Chuba Hubbard, huge day. Game-clinching touchdown for Carolina. Jonathan Taylor, gigantic day. Jack, I thought we were about to see a record. He had 200 yards like in the third quarter of my game. He had 189 yards after the first play of the third quarter. 189 yards. But because they had such a big lead, they took him out for a while. Then they had to put him back in. Anyway, Jonathan Taylor. Saquon, huge start, then slowed down. James Conner, big game till he got hurt. Devin Achane, I mean, that's the reason why the Dolphins won. He had a huge game. So that's another one. Rookies was a big theme, right? Drake May, baller. Jaden Daniels, incredible baller. Brian Thomas, I thought was fantastic. He typically is. Brock Bowers was awesome. He's setting records, 100 catches, 1,000 yards. So I thought the rookies really showed up as one of the themes of the day. And then the last thing I just want to mention, first of all, the Bucs-Cowboys game was awesome. Second of all, super proud of the Cowboys' effort. You know, it's why I laugh when people talk about these games being meaningless. Tell that to the guys on the Cowboys last night that played their you-know-what's off. I mean, there was physical hitting. Micah Parsons was like a man possessed. Everything about that game was awesome. Everything about the professional effort of the Dallas Cowboys was awesome. I was super proud of that because I hate when people talk about meaningless and nothing to play for. Evidently, the Cowboys didn't get your fake memo.
All right, we start with the Saturday games where the Chiefs defense, they stood tall late in a 27-19 victory over the Texans.
Felt like a lot of the Chiefs games this year. They get off to a fast start as Mahomes is able to do whatever he normally does. I don't know what the deal is with that guy. He is like Gumby. It's unbelievable. He didn't look like his ankle bothered him even a little bit. You know, whereas the week before it looked so bad. He was totally fine scrambling for first down, scrambling for their first touchdown. I also thought it was a good sign for the Chiefs that Xavier Worthy keeps coming along, that Hollywood Brown had a nice game in his debut, including that fourth down conversion. The Texans, more or less, are just too sloppy. Stroud's interceptions weren't good. They'd have penalties, blown coverages. It's just not, the Texans, it's just not good enough. The Chiefs' defense kept getting pressure, helped force Stroud into those turnovers. And I think that maybe the biggest story of the game moving forward is the Tank Dell injury. Second year in a row, season-ending injury. This one was really ugly. SportsInjuryCentral.com, SixScore.com, Pro Football Doc, they were all over it. I mean, he had to stay overnight in a Kansas City hospital, and you could tell C.J. Stroud said it's his best friend, and that Tank is his best friend, and he really was really struggling after that injury to Tank.
Next up, Baltimore. They make the AFC North race a close one with a 34-17 blowout win.
Before the game, the day before, the Ravens actually released Deontay Johnson which means he goes on waivers. I guess we'll find out today who claimed him. He's expected to be claimed, reportedly. You know, Russell Wilson did some really positive things in this game. He had one play that was very like Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson-esque, and very impressive. But it's hard not to say that his 2 turnovers weren't the difference in the game, right? I mean, the fumble near the goal line, the pick 6 to Marlon Humphrey right after Minkah Fitzpatrick got what I thought could be the game-changing interception. Steelers are down a touchdown. Minkah Fitzpatrick gets an interception. 2 plays later, Russell Wilson throws it right to Marlon Humphrey for a pick 6. Just hard to win. I mean, they already are missing, so many guys for the game. Ogunjobi and obviously George Pickens. Can't make those mistakes. They also couldn't stop Derrick Henry and the Ravens rushing attack at all. That was, I can't remember the last time, Jack, I saw a guy or a team just run through the Pittsburgh Steelers like that. Just run over and through them. That was ugly. Ravens were getting good pressure on Russell Wilson a lot. Kyle Hamilton had a big game, and that was a huge, huge win for the Ravens.
The Michael Penix Jr. era, it started with a 34-7 dominant victory against the New York Giants.
Right. I mean, he was solid. I don't know that nothing jumped out other than he definitely has a lot more mobility than Cousins does right now. He just felt like he took some deeper shots. But the story of this game was the Giants' offensive line, in particular the right tackle, Evan Neal, really struggles. The Falcons got pressure on Drew Lock all game, who had multiple pick 6s. Just not going to win that way. The silver lining for the Giants is it looks very likely that the New York Giants are going to have the number 1 overall pick, which is pretty wild when you think about it.
Arizona, they're eliminated from the postseason with a 36-30 overtime loss to the Panthers.
That's a tough loss for the Cardinals. Really tough loss because they knew their only chance was to win out. Chuba Hubbard had a big day, especially, by the way, every time I say his name, I want to say Chuba. Every time. It's Chuba. But I want to say Chuba because of Hubba Bubba gum so bad. You know Hubba Bubba gum?
Yes.
Man, I think that was my favorite gum. It was like thick but juicy. Oh, anyway, Hubba Bubba makes me want to say Chuba Hubbard. It's Chuba Hubbard. Was awesome in the second half and overtime. Kind of surprising to see the Arizona Cardinals get run over like that. They fell behind. I mean, give them credit, the Cardinals, because they rallied. But ultimately, it seems like this happens in a lot of games. And the Cardinals are going to have to figure out how they feel about it. But Kyler Murray, costly mistake with interception, taking a sack when he shouldn't. Thought it really hurt the Cardinals when James Conner went out of the game with his injury. Bryce Young was better than he was last week, that's for sure. Didn't turn it over. And he's running a lot more. Bryce Young is running a lot more. And again, trying to cement his place as their quarterback next year. Class is in session. Thanks to my friends over at Masterclass and their new class, Bet Smart, Top Sports Betting Strategies. And when I say my friends, I literally mean my friends. Nick Costos from Odyssey, Joe Fortenbaugh from ESPN. They got other pros as well, trying to help you stop guessing and make smarter bets, giving you some insight into how to bet like a sharp, and maybe more importantly, how to stop losing money on really bad bets. It's like the Even Money podcast on steroids. Absolutely so cool. They got a bunch of awesome classes over at Masterclass. They always have great offerings during the holidays, sometimes as much as up to 50% off. Head over to masterclass.com/Ross for the current offer. That's up to 50% off at masterclass.com/Ross. Masterclass.com/Ross. Remember, all sports betting involves risk, and you're responsible for complying with all sports betting laws in your jurisdiction. We got an awesome week to drink some Smirnoff cocktails and enjoy football. How about Christmas Eve? Christmas, we got 2 games, including the game I'm calling. Thursday night, Saturday, Sunday. Guess what? Smirnoff and the NFL are with you every step of the way. Smirnoff is the world's #1 vodka. Plus, they are an official vodka partner of the NFL. This holiday season, when you're enjoying the game and your cocktails, please make sure to drink responsibly. Take a minute, make a plan, never drive impaired. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Smirnoff, we do game days.
Detroit, they now control their destiny in the NFC with a 34-17 win.
You know, their banged up defense got the job done. Now, Caleb Williams had a lot of empty calories later in the game, garbage time production, but that Lions banged up defense absolutely got the job done. Forced turnovers, especially early. Thought Dan Campbell was a little less aggressive, which I think is interesting, right? You think with his defense being the way it is and his offense still being awesome, that maybe he'd be more aggressive? I don't know. Anyway, the Bears allowed the Lions to score on the first 5 possessions. Big day. And biggest play of the year for Jamison Williams.
Game you might know a thing or two about. The Colts, they stayed alive late with a 38-30 win over the Titans.
I don't really have anything to report food-wise because what happens for TV booths is a lot of times they're not on the press box level. They're lower and better, if I'm being honest. In Indy, the radio's super high. I didn't even go up to the press box. So I don't even know what they served up there. I know the CBS crew meal had a delicious ham and cheese omelet there, and I had a salad with chicken breast on it. That was good. This ended up being a fun game when it looked like it was going to be a blowout roller coaster game, right? Jonathan Taylor and to a lesser extent Anthony Richardson, they were running the rock all over the Titans, and it looked like the Titans basically had laid down. I was very disappointed with the Titans' effort through 3 quarters. Horrible tackling, really poor effort at times. They came alive in the 4th quarter. Mason Rudolph just kept throwing the checkdowns to Chig Okonkwo, Tajay Spears, but ultimately they couldn't get it done. Anthony Richardson, only 7 for 11 for the game because they were running it so well, but he did make a couple of critical throws, including the one to Pittman late to get a huge first down for the Colts.
The Rams, they beat the Jets on the road 19-9.
Kudos to Tyler Higbee. If you remember in that Lions playoff game last year, Jack, that I was on the sideline for radio, he had that terrible injury. This is his first game back, and he scores the go-ahead touchdown. I mean, how can you not be so happy for him? The Jets are the Jets. They move the ball well, but then they stall out when they get into the Rams or scoring territory, either turn it over on downs or settle for a field goal. The Rams pretty much were passing the ball behind the line of scrimmage for the most part. Not a great day offensively, but they did enough, and they look like they got a great chance to win the NFC West.
Arguably the game of the day, Jalen Hurts healed after with a concussion, and Jaden Daniels balled out an electric 36-33 Commanders win.
What a game. I mean, easily the game of the day. And it was, Hurts went down 6 minutes in. I don't think it's much of a surprise, Jack, but I'm going to make Jaden Daniels my 11 Oaks hungriest performance of the week. Genuine Wagyu beef, Angus beef, heritage breed pork, free-range chicken. It's all locally raised, available nationwide online. You can also shop in person at the store, the farm store, if you're here in Central PA. It's in Newville. Huge curated selection of kitchen and pantry items. What I love, it's a family-owned business. It's a listener-owned business. I've been to the farm. For more information, visit 11oaksfarms.com today. Jaden Daniels was absolutely incredible in this game. Let's just say a couple things right now. Bo Nix has had a really nice year. Jaden Daniels is the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL. Caleb Williams has done some decent things lately. I'd be surprised if he ever ends up being better than Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is fantastic. Even after a late game interception that was bad, he still mentally overcomes that to lead the game-winning drive. He was awesome with his legs. He did it with his arms. He consistently makes the right play. He is fantastic, and he almost single-handedly willed the Commanders to that victory over the Eagles. As for the Eagles, Jack, they had their chances, man. I mean, they got a fast start with Saquon, but then after the first quarter, they couldn't get it going with him. I mean, to force 5 turnovers on defense and still lose is not a good sign for the Eagles at all.
Next up, the Bengals. They beat the Browns 24-6.
Joe Burrow had some wild plays in that game. Just watching the highlights, Joe Burrow looked like Favre out there, like throwing the ball while he's falling down, spinning around, making plays out of nothing. I think they'll give him 2 more starts, but that was not encouraging for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, right? I mean, DTR, that's not a good defense, and he did very, very little. I will say the Bengals D played a lot better, including forcing that Deontay Foreman fumble on the goal line. That pretty much cemented the game. And holding the Browns to field goals. Burrow, how about this stat, Jack? First guy, NFL history, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, 7 straight games.
Minnesota, they pulled off an impressive road win against the Seahawks 27-24.
It really was. This was another game of the day. This was fantastic. Justin Jefferson, insane as usual. When I say that, I mean like really good. Sam Darnold, I mean, he was getting banged up, hurt his ankle, I think, just kept playing, comes through late. The Seahawks couldn't run the ball at all. Geno kept him in it, but those 2 interceptions really hurt, and they got killed on field position. That Vikings punter kept punting them 4 times inside the 20, and then Van Ginkel came through with those sacks late, which were huge too.
The Bills, they win the Tucker Bowl against the Patriots 24-21.
How about the Patriots? They came to play in the Tucker Bowl, looking forward to calling their game again on Saturday for NFL Network against the Chargers. They had 2 awesome drives to start the game, like awesome, as they were up 14-0. And the Bills defense, I was thinking, man, the Bills defense is legit bad. The Patriots controlled the time of possession. They controlled the first half. But second half, the Bills defense gets 3 straight turnovers, including that touchdown on the backwards pass to Ramondre Stevenson. That was basically the game. For the offense, James Cook had to carry the load as Josh Allen's hand was like banged up. Not pretty, but the Bills will take it.
Next up, the Raiders, they beat the Jags in a key game for what you mentioned being draft positioning, 19-14.
It's very interesting because it seems like, all I saw was the quote, but Antonio Pierce was asked about the number 1 pick, and he said, ask Tom Telesco, who's the GM. I don't know. That didn't sound real good. Antonio Pierce sounds like a guy who kind of knows he's getting fired and wants to win anyway. This reminds me of like Lovie Smith a couple years ago, who knew he was getting fired, so he won the game, which he was trying to win the game anyway. Anyway, the Raiders got turnover breaks finally in this one. They got competent quarterback play finally from Aiden O'Connell. I mentioned earlier, Brock Bowers goes over 100 receptions and 1,000 yards in a record-breaking season. He's going to break Ditka's record next week. Mac Jones, it just feels like he's one of those guys putting up hollow numbers, right? Felt like empty calories, moving the ball, but he only scored 14 points. Thank goodness for the Jags they drafted Brian Thomas. He's like by far their shining light of positivity in a horrendous season.
Miami, they're another team that stays alive with a 29-17 win at home over the Niners.
A lot of these teams, Jack, staying alive, and what's cool about that is they're all going to be watching my game, and their fans watching my game on Saturday, rooting for the Patriots to beat the Chargers. They need the Chargers to lose that one. All those teams, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Bengals, they're all rooting for the Chargers to lose that game against the Patriots on Saturday. And then I think the Broncos play the Bengals that day, which is interesting. Dolphins had to settle for a bunch of field goals, but Achane carried a heavy load. He was fantastic. Debo finally had a good game. I would say Brock Purdy, not quite good enough, especially under pressure in this one, as the Niners, they found out they were eliminated right before their game even started. But yeah, kudos to the Dolphins for staying alive. Even if you're not going to make the playoffs, 9-8 is a solid season for any of these teams that are in that situation.
The Bucs, they lose control of the NFC South in a thrilling game. The Cowboys win 26-24.
The game was awesome, wasn't it?
It was.
I mean, that would have been that could have arguably been game of the week as well. You know, the Cowboys didn't really run it that well with Rico Dowdle how they had been. It was more Cooper Rush throwing it to CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Aubrey, holy cow, is that guy good. Multiple 58-yard field goals. Multiple. Had a 53-yarder, a 49-yarder, out there setting records. Thought Baker Mayfield did a nice job getting rid of the ball quickly at times. It was the turnovers at the end that killed the Bucs. I mean, they had the long touchdown pass that Jordan Lewis ripped away. Then Deron Bland ripped it away. I mean, twice Bucs guys had it in their hands and the Cowboys ripped the ball away. They just wanted it more. They got the win. Other than that, make sure you check out College Draft today. Power rankings tomorrow. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. Believe it or not, it is still not too late. I'm a huge fan of buying one of these for a loved one, myfrontpagestory.com. You're not going to get the framed story in the mail by Wednesday, but I love giving them the envelope with the order and saying, I'm having a story written about you. I feel like that's amazing. BackOfficeScheduler.com, HumanHeadNYC.com, Sporticulture,